In the remote heights of ancient Mount Ebal, a discovery was announced that sent ripples through the worlds of archaeology, biblical studies, and faith. A tiny folded lead object, barely larger than a postage stamp, was claimed to carry the earliest known Hebrew inscription, invoking the name of God. Could this be the oldest biblical text ever found? Or is it a case of wishful reading, misinterpretation, or simple artifact overreach?
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and the scans so far don't convince me.
Some believe that this could be a missing piece in our understanding of Israelite origins and biblical literacy. Others caution that the claim rests on uncertain ground, literal folds hiding more questions than certainties. In this narrative, we will explore both sides: the excitement, the skepticism, the historical and theological implications, and we invite you on this journey to ask, is prophecy unfolding today in the stones and soil of the Holy Land? Before we begin, if you find value in deep archaeological and religious historical content, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. That helps us bring more carefully researched material your way. From the moment of the announcement, the Mount Ebal tablet stirred controversy.
We were re-sifting old spoil when we found this tiny folded lead fend. It was out of place, unmistakable.
In December 2019, during a project to re-sift the spoil heaps of earlier excavations on Mount Ebal, archaeologist Scott Stripling's team retrieved a folded, tiny lead sheet. The site itself is already steeped in biblical resonance. Mount Ebal is known from Deuteronomy 11 verse 29 and Deuteronomy 27 as the Mountain of Curses, where Israel's tribes would pronounce curses, while Mount Gerizim across the valley would pronounce blessings. In Joshua chapter 8, the Israelites are said to have built an altar on Ebal and recited both blessings and curses from there. Stripling and his collaborators.
The scans show strokes that look like proto-alphabetic signs, but distinguishing letter from corrosion is tricky.
Asserted that their scanned imaging revealed proto-alphabetic letters on both the outer and inner folds of the lead sheet. They proposed a date in the late Bronze Age too, roughly 1400 to 1200 BCE, making it centuries older than the previously known earliest Hebrew inscription in Israel. Their reading of the text is forceful and ominous. Cursed, 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 cursed by the god YHW. You will die cursed. Cursed you will surely die. Cursed by YHW. Cursed, cursed, cursed. They argue that if authentic, this artifact would not only place writing, including divine names, in Israel much earlier than thought, but also substantiate a biblical motif of curses from Mount Ebal itself. But from the earliest days, the announcement was met with sharp scholarly criticism. One central objection: the tablet was not excavated in situ, but found in reworked debris, separated from clear archaeological context. That makes stratigraphic attribution and dating problematic. In late 2023, 3 peer-reviewed articles challenged the authenticity of the find, denying discernible letters in the scans, questioning the dating methods, and even arguing the object might be misidentified, a simple fishing weight rather than a cursed tablet. One of these articles calls the object a Type L.2.3 net sinker, citing parallels from Greek lead weights used in fisheries. Scholars like Aaron Mayer and Christopher Rolston have
Proponents see a confirmation of narrative, critics see overreach, blazons. Both instincts merit careful weighing.
stated that the tomographic images do not conclusively show legible letters, and that the published evidence is insufficiently rigorous. They argue that until a fuller dataset is made public, acceptance must remain cautious. So we are left at a crossroads. Proponents see a dramatic confirmation of biblical narrative and early literacy. Critics see an overzealous interpretive leap. Let us now step back and explore the historical, textual, and theological dimensions that make this claim so tantalizing, and yet fragile. Until recently, the strongest contender for the earliest biblical text was the Ketef Hinnom silver scrolls from Jerusalem, uncovered in 1979, which date to around the late 7th century BCE, just before the Babylonian exile. Those scrolls bear a version of the priestly blessing from Numbers 6:24, 26, and are often cited as the oldest biblical texts yet found. Compared to these, the Mount Ebal tablet claim would push Hebrew inscription, an invocation of YHWH, back by several centuries. That is precisely why the claim is electrifying. Yet scholars also point out that writing in Canaan, or in Proto-Canaanite alphabets, existed earlier, but whether Israelites themselves used it early is debated. The oral tradition, scribal schools, and the timing of literary composition of the Hebrew Bible remain hotly discussed topics in biblical scholarship. From a Muslim perspective,
we should approach finds with humility. Revelation and archaeology answer different questions.
One must approach these findings with caution and humility, recognizing that the Quran and Hadith preserve assurance about divine revelation, not about reconstructing every detail of biblical transmission. But these archaeological whispers can feed our curiosity, deepen our respect for history, and sharpen our discernment. In Deuteronomy 27, Moses commands that after the people cross the Jordan, they are to build an altar of stones, uncut, on Mount Ebal, and there to write the words of the law. Then a litany of curses is to be proclaimed. Cursed is the man who makes a carved or molten image. The curses are dramatic warnings of death, captivity, drought, and punishment. Joshua 8 verses 30 to 35 recounts that after Israel defeated Ai, Joshua built the altar on Ebal and read all the words of the law, the blessings and curses, to all Israel. If one believed the Mount Ebal tablet to be a relic from that cultic center, it would resonate powerfully with what the biblical narrative describes. Yet we must note that the biblical text does not promise a physical lead tablet with curses inscribed that would survive millennia. The biblical curses are oral, communal proclamations. The tablet claim is a modern hypothesis overlaying the ancient layers.
Archaeological finds can inform dialogue, but shouldn't be forced into doctrinal claims.
From a Muslim-Christian bridge perspective, we can observe that both faiths uphold respect for Scripture. The Quran emphasizes that previous scriptures have sometimes been altered or lost, but that does not negate the original revelation. We remain open to historical finds, while respecting both the limitations of archaeology and the primacy of revealed Scripture. The epigraphers who participated argue that Proto-Canaanite or Proto-Hebrew letter forms correspond with the proposed era. They read multiple repeats of the divine name and curse formulas consistent with ancient Near Eastern literary parallels. Chemical and isotopic lead analysis reportedly traces the lead to sources active in the Eastern Mediterranean during the Late Bronze Age, potentially bolstering the antiquity claim. The discovery location, the dump pile near Joshua's altar, lies within a site already identified as an ancient altar complex associated with ritual activity. Proponents point to the presence of chiastic parallelism, a literary structure found in biblical and ancient Near Eastern texts, as suggestive of intentional composition, not random scratches. Proponents say that critiques are often personal and that further publication of raw datasets will vindicate their reading. Critics, however, maintain that the lack of in situ discovery means it cannot be tied securely to a stratigraphic layer. Debris could mix materials from different eras. They argue the tomographic images are too ambiguous to reliably distinguish letters from noise. The letters may be artifacts of scanning or corrosion. Some scholars classify the object as a lead net weight rather than a curse tablet. Dating the lead alone is weak evidence, since lead sources may be used over centuries. Some critics say that the biblical community was not literate enough at that early date to produce such inscriptions. Others note the rush to publicize through media rather than publishing full datasets first violated academic norms. In sum, the claim hovers precariously between possibility and overreach. The evidence is intriguing but not conclusive. If the tablet truly dated to 1200 BCE or earlier and carried the divine name and inscription, it would push the timeline of Israelite literacy backward significantly, perhaps closing the gap between when the Israelites are said in the Bible to have entered the land and when they could plausibly write. This would lend circumstantial support to those who argue that some biblical texts or oral traditions might have been recorded earlier than often assumed. It would also give archaeological substance to the biblical schema of curses and written covenant, not just in later centuries, but in the very heart of Israel's entry narrative. A curse tablet on Ebal would echo Deuteronomy's emphasis on written law, blessings, and curses. In interfaith reflection, it might deepen Christian-Muslim dialogue around Scripture, prompting renewed interest in how early biblical texts may correlate with Quranic respect for previous scriptures. It might help some people see that the biblical books were not purely devotional legends but were anchored in material cultures, scribal practice, and divine memory. Yet even if authentic, this fragment would not prove prophecy, guarantee perfect textual preservation, or settle every debate about biblical composition. It would be a remarkable whisper, not a trumpet blast. So how should viewers weigh these possibilities skeptically yet with hope? Assess the primary evidence, ask for scans, raw data, and transparent methodology. Merge archaeology and textual tradition carefully. The tablet is no more sacred than Scripture itself. Archaeology must inform, but not override, the primacy of revealed text. Respect uncertainty. Many ancient finds begin as contested claims, eventually refined or rejected by later scholarship. Maintain reverence for Scripture. Whether or not this tablet is genuine, our faith does not rest entirely on one artifact, but on the total witness of revelation, history, and divine grace. In the folds of dust and metal on Mount Ebal, we see a microcosm of the tension between faith and scholarship. Might prophecy be whispering through the stones? Or might the noise of interpretation drown a message we have not yet fully deciphered? If you found this exploration meaningful, please subscribe and share. Your engagement helps us continue to bring well-researched, respectful content bridging archaeology, Scripture, and faith. Thank you for walking this journey with me.